Tsukune is a worthless high schooler who keeps failing his grade and accidentally ends up in a monster school with lots of monster girls. The idiot nearly gets ice skate until he's saved by a vampire girl who falls in love with him. It all starts when his father finds a packet of information and he ends up enrolled in a private school called Yakai Academy. On his way there, the bus driver tells him to be careful, and once they pass through a tunnel, all connection cuts off. Tsukune begins walking when suddenly a girl rams her bicycle into him. Her skirt flutters, giving the desperate guy a quick peek. Tsukune ends up getting a nosebleed, and for some reason the girl is all over him. She's overcome by his scent and digs her teeth, revealing that she's a vampire. She then asks what Tsukune thinks of vampires, and he says he doesn't mind them. Hearing that, the lady gets all happy. She asks if he'll become her friend and introduces herself as Moka Akashiya. In the homeroom, the teacher, Shizuka Nekonome, introduces herself. Poor Tsukune almost pees himself hearing that Yakai is a monster-only school. Ms. Nekonome explains that humans run the earth, and so the monsters must disguise and coexist with humanity. One of the students, Seizo Kamiya, says he'd rather eat humans instead, and Ms. Nekonome reminds him that the school is surrounded by an anti-human barrier. In fact, if a human managed to get inside it, they would be put to death. Tsukune is now fearful of his life and catches Seizo's attention. However, just then Moka arrives and all the boys in the class begin drooling over her. But when she notices Tsukune, she literally dives in, hugging him. She is literally glued to his side, and soon they stop at a vending machine. The two have a cringe little romantic moment, but Moka gets shy and accidentally pushes the dude into a beat. Unfortunately, once they sit down, Seizo shows up, tossing Tsukune and trying to hit on Moka. But Moka rejects the clown. Later on, Moka points to her Rosario and explains that if it comes off, she'll turn into a powerful and scary vampire. However, Tsukune believes she'll still be the same person. Moka hugs him happily, revealing that he's the first person she actually sucked blood from, and is about to go sipping again, but Tsukune, being a loser, runs away. The dude starts gathering his things to leave, but Moka catches him and attempts to convince him to stay. To save himself, Tsukune decides to reveal that he's a human and shouts at her before running away. Just then, Tsukune hears Moka scream and runs back to find Seizo. Seizo knocks him down while Moka runs to Tsukune, apologizing and explaining that she always wanted a friend, whether they are a human or a monster. The dude gives in and admits he really likes her. Just then, Seizo knocks Tsukune once again. However, Tsukune rips off Moka's Rosario, transforming her into her true form, an S-class vampire. Her stare alone is enough to make Seizo pee off, and just like that, Moka knocks Seizo out. She then walks over to Tsukune as he collapses in her arms, and the poor guy wakes up to find that he's stuck here for at least a month. Thankfully, students receive personal rooms in the dorms, and Tsukune wakes up one morning to find 3 boys drooling over Moka. The boys are totally jealous, but they have heard that despite looking like a wimp, Tsukune had beaten Seizo. Anyways, Moka tells Tsukune that he can ask her for anything since he's a human. Tsukune thanks her when suddenly she passes out. Moka says she felt dizzy from not having her breakfast, and so the lady literally bites and feeds from her man buffet, sending the dude screaming away. At the pond, Tsukune examines his neck when he notices a girl has collapsed nearby. She asks him to help her up and smooshes her big talents. Tsukune, being a cherry boy, is rizzed and agrees to help her to the nursing office. Turns out she's in the same class as him and once again falls forward in pain. She complains that her talents are cramping. The lady literally starts rubbing herself, making the dude climax to the 7th heaven. She introduces herself as Kirumu and makes Tsukune fall in trance. Just then, Moka arrives to find Kirumu walking off with the idiot. She tries to stop Tsukune, but the guy is pure rude and shakes her off. In class, Tsukune finally breaks free of the spell and is confused as Moka and Kirumu glare at each other. After class ends, Kirumu introduces herself to Moka, revealing that she's a succubus monster and that she plans to turn all the boys into her personal harem. Just then, Tsukune finds them and tries to apologize to Moka, but Kirumu hypnotizes him. Later in the nurse office, Kirumu decides to put Tsukune permanently under her spell and hugs him, giving him the talent smooch once again. Meanwhile, poor Moka is feeling sad. However, the voice of inner Moka comes from Rosario, revealing that Tsukune fell victim to succubus magic called charm, and that his life may be in danger. Back in the nurse's office, Kirumu has pinned Tsukune down. She is about to give him a fatal kiss when he breaks free and hugs Kirumu. The lady goes crazy, asking Tsukune if she wants Moka more than her. Once she realizes that she's defeated, Kirumu decides to kill Tsukune and transforms into her true form. Poor guy totally chickens out, but luckily Moka arrives and pushes Kirumu out the window. She explains to Tsukune that Kirumu's a succubus. She can rizz men just by looking at them, and Tsukune finally realizes why he was being rude. Just then, Kirumu drags Tsukune and Moka outside. She grows out her crazy nails and slices through trees like butter. Moka desperately asks her to spare Tsukune. Luckily, Tsukune manages to pull out Moka's Rosario and she transforms once again. Like Seizo, Kirumu is totally scared and desperately starts explaining that very few are left of her kind. She must find her mate of fate in order to continue her species. Mocha finds her selfish and kicks her through the trees. Kirumu then finally agrees to stop. But Mocha doesn't want to take chances and decides to slash Kirumu's wings. However, Tsukune gets in front of Mocha and stops her. Inner Mocha then explains that she only saved him for his blood before sealing away. The next day, Tsukune apologizes to Mocha and Kirumu shows up with some baked cookies. Turns out she has decided to make Tsukune her mate of fate. Soon the midterms are here and Tsukune scores 128th position in class. Much to his shock, he finds that Mocha has scored 13th. She offers to help Tsukune study and the two start cringe staring at each other one again. However, Yukari Sendo, the smartest girl in the class, is obsessed with Mocha's beauty. She is complimented by the class president, but he also rudely says that her witch outfit is against school rules. Yukari angrily drops wash tubs on his head, making him attack her. But Mocha gets in front and shoos the president off. Later, Yukari thanks Mocha for defending her and lovingly jumps at her. She even asks Mocha to be her girlfriend, but sadly Mocha denies. Still, she continues squeezing Mocha until Tsukune tries to stop her, but Yukari gets angry. She uses her magic wand to manipulate cleaning supplies into attacking him. However, the class president and his minions are hiding nearby watching everything, and now they have a perfect reason to go after her. Later, Tsukune is being treated for his wounds by Kirumu. She's angry at Yukari but decides to cash the situation and starts sympathizing with Tsukune to rizz him. Meanwhile, Yukari uses a voodoo doll to take control of Tsukune's body. First she has him punch himself twice and then makes him rizz Kirumu. However, Mocha enters the nurse's office and Kirumu freaks out, explaining that she didn't hypnotize Tsukune. Just then Yukari makes Tsukune pull Kirumu's skirt down. Mocha gets totally angry, but luckily they notice Yukari laughing outside the window. They take her to the classroom, where Tsukune tries having Mocha and Kirumu do something about Yukari's behavior. Yukari just drops several items on his head and runs out of the classroom. She keeps laughing and remembering her life at Yakai. Nobody in her class likes her because she's a witch and they think she cheats with magic to get good grades. Because of this, Yukari began pulling pranks as revenge. She then bumps into the class president and realizes that they are here to teach her a lesson. Back in the classroom, Mocha is trying to explain that Yukari is hurting and needs friends, but Tsukune is too mad at Yukari's constant pranks. Kirumu then explains that witches are not considered actual monsters or humans, but somewhere in between, so they feel out of place and hated by both monsters and humans. Meanwhile, poor Yukari is dragged to the pond and the class president and his minions transform into lizardmen. The president eats Yukari's wand, leaving her defenseless, but luckily Mocha arrives. She tells Yukari that she doesn't have to be alone. Poor Yukari cries and hugs Mocha, but the lizardmen become annoyed and plan to eat them both. Yukari bites the class president's tail and is swiped when Tsukune appears, taking the blow instead of her. Yukari is shocked seeing the claw wounds on Tsukune. Luckily, they are both saved by Kirumu and Tsukune stands in front of his friends, planning to protect them. However, the dude loses his balance and once again removes Mocha's Rosario. The inner Mocha is released, but instead of being scared, the class president becomes angry that Mocha has broken dressing rules. His two minions try to attack Mocha, but are quickly knocked into the trees. The class president roars that having such strength is against the school rules, but ends up kicked into the pond as well. Yukari then realizes that she finally has friends and breaks down. Soon Yukari starts behaving and apologizes to everyone for the pranks she pulled. The class apologizes back for treating her badly. However, Yukari has now fallen for Tsukune as well, and the three girls tussle over the poor guy. However, Tsukune is still having a rough time in Yakai, and Mocha wonders why Tsukune is acting weird. He lies, saying he was just being sleepy until Mocha says he smells nice. Tsukune realizes she's about to feast once again, but luckily Kirumu appears and classically hypnotizes him. Later on, while Tsukune is taking the trash out, he is confronted by three students who declare he's their #1 enemy. They introduce themselves as the presidents of the fan club, a group consisting of Kozo Kasahara, Kubasaki Nagi, and Basaburo Tera. They all idolize Mocha, Yukari, and Kirumu. Just then, the trio of creeps literally starts beating him up. Luckily, Yukari runs in with Kirumu and Mocha. The creeps are overjoyed to see their idols. Yukari decides to punish the boys, but a bucket accidentally hits Tsukune, knocking him down and allowing the boys to flee. At night, Tsukune treats his wounds and wonders if he should really stay at Academy. Meanwhile, Kozo, Kubasaki, and Basaburo meet in their club room and decide that they need to get rid of Tsukune. The next day, Kirumu and Yukari decide that they should be Tsukune's bodyguards. Tsukune is against the idea, making Mocha blurt that he's not strong and immediately realizes her mistake. Poor Tsukune walks out in shame. That evening he cleans up his dorm and leaves. Yukari is cleaning up the school grounds with her magic when she notices Tsukyun passing by and immediately tells Mocha. By then Tsukyun arrives at the bus stop but is shocked to see the fan club has snuck up behind him. Turns out the reason they've been idolizing the girls is because they think they cannot get girls of their own and hate Tsukyun because he gets girls without actually trying. Once again they start battering the poor guy when suddenly Mocha flies in with Yukari thanks to Kirimu. Kirimu drops them off on the ground and kicks Kubasaki, freeing Tsukyun from his neck. Yukari produces a chair with magic, and Tsukyun lands on it. Mocha rushes over to Tsukyun to see if he's alright, but he's just sad over being a useless man. She then literally slaps the moron, making him realize that he's actually helped the three of them a lot. The fan club trio becomes upset and the girls decide to take care of them. Unluckily, Yukari runs off in terror when Kubasaki starts being weird. Kirimu is unable to land any solid blows to Basaburo's blobby body, and Mocha is useless without inner Mocha. Tsukyun sees that there is only one way to get these weirdos to stop, and so he calls them creepy stalkers, hitting their self-esteem. The trio then combines their lame and powerless monster forms into a powerful giant that easily knocks Tsukyun away. But luckily Tsukyun pulls Rosario off and the inner Mocha is released. The trio totally drools in awe over inner Mocha until Kirimu kicks the giant and Yukari trips it with a rock, allowing inner Mocha to kick it far away. The girls then beg Tsukyun to not leave, but he's just confused and reveals that his bag is actually just full of letters that he wants to mail. However, the next day, Ms. Nekonome says that student dormitories now have payphones that link to the human world, and poor Tsukyun yelps in shock just as Mocha digs in. One day Tsukyun has a dream of almost kissing Mocha only to wake up from a sharp pain. Turns out Mocha has been sucking on him. She then plops off asking him to hurry. Later on in class, Ms. Nekonome tells the students that they all must join clubs. Mocha says they should join the same club. However, the first 4 clubs they try are too spooky. Tsukyun then notices the swim club and starts daydreaming about Mocha and him kissing in the pool when suddenly he wakes up to realize he was actually trying to kiss her. Tsukyun then tells Mocha that they should give the swim club a try as it appears safe, and suddenly the club president, Tamao Ikanos, is all over the dude, making Mocha jealous. At the pool, 3 boys sneak up to spy on the girls. They notice Mocha, but she's focused on Tsukyun and has a hard time getting in water. The dude is getting treated to Tamao's talents and Mocha totally gets angry. She accuses Tsukyun for joining the club only to meet girls. However, Tamao splashes Mocha away. Tsukyun tries to follow, but just then Kirimu lands on him. And even Yukari joins in, making the boys at the fence cry with jealousy. Kirimu then starts flirting with Tsukyun. Yukari joins as well, and the 2 ladies start fighting over their talent sizes. Meanwhile, Mocha is scolded by inner Mocha for going near water. Turns out vampires are weakened by pure water. She scolds that Mocha shouldn't even bother going back to the pool and end her relationship with Tsukyun. Back at the swim club, an all-girls swimming event is announced. Kirimu is the leader of the red team and Yukari is the leader of the white team. The event consists of an obstacle race, in which all of the girls try to race through a tunnel, but they have trouble getting through. However, Yukari is able to win it easily. The next event is a limbo on water, and Kirimu once again loses to Yukari. However, Kirimu manages to win the push and shove, race on water, and even the ball tossing. Now it's all about the final event, a horseback fight. This time Yukari desperately tries to take Kirimu's cap but gets stuck in between her talons. On the other hand, Tsukyun is practicing swimming with Tamao, but finds that he cannot enjoy himself, so decides to search for Mocha. However, Tamao grabs him. That's when he notices girls biting into dudes and turning them into trash. Kirimu and Yukari notice this as well and rush to help Tsukyun. Turns out the other girls are mermaids and Tsukyun is next on the menu. But luckily Mocha arrives and jumps into the pool, causing a spark. The poor girl sinks when suddenly Kirimu transforms and snatches Tamao off Tsukyun. He then manages to snap Rosario off. And once inner Mocha is released, she tricks Tamao to jump out of water, and that's where she defeats her. However, she also gives Tsukyun a beating for ignoring outer Mocha before sealing away. Soon one day, Tsukyun meets Mocha outside the pool and apologizes for not considering her feelings. He even leaves the swim club and upon Ms. Nekonome's recommendation ends up joining the newspaper club with Mocha. Yukari and Kirimu join as well. The next day, poor Tsukyun is busy getting his daily dose of Riz from girls. However, he passes out from anemia and the lack of oxygen thanks to the excessive talent hugging. Anyways, the group is surprised at being the only members of the club. But Ms. Nekonome then introduces a young man named Jin, the club president. He explains that the newspaper club involves putting yourself in harm's way to get a story. That's when Kirimu remembers about the peeper that's been haunting Yakai, and soon they start putting up flyers asking for information on the peeper. Yukari offers to help as well, but Jin rudely says she's too tiny, and it's not long before Tsukyun catches the creep looking up girls' skirts. He yells at him, but Jin just flips the whole thing onto Tsukyun. The poor guy gets slapped and Mocha leaves angrily. In the restroom, she wonders if Tsukun really peeked at her. Inner Mocha then tells her to be careful around Jin. The next day, Jin is watching two girls change in the locker room and overhears them talking about Tsukun and Mocha being a couple. This gives him a nasty idea, and he almost once again frames Tsukun for peeping. Poor guy tries defending himself to Mocha and Kirimu but is totally unsuccessful. Seeing this, Jin makes his move and offers to help Tsukun. He leads him outside and tells him to look into a window. Turns out it was the window to the girls' locker room, and suddenly Jin takes a picture. He threatens Tsukun that he'll show it to Mocha if he busts him and leaves the dude to get kicked by the angry woman. Soon the news reaches Yukari and Kirimu, but the two decide to investigate the matter themselves. That night, Jin visits Mocha and literally tries kissing her. When Mocha pushes him away, he shows her the picture. Mocha's shocked, but thankfully Kirimu and Yukari show up as well. They point out the evidence that Jin is the true peeper. He moves back in shock and accidentally drops pictures he took while peeping. His cover is totally blown. With no way out, Jin transforms into his werewolf form and lunges for Mocha just as Tsukun arrives and pulls Rosario off. Jin is overjoyed to see how beautiful Mocha's monster form is, but decides to dominate her. Unfortunately, the full moon gives him a major boost, but once it goes behind clouds, Mocha kicks the crazy dog into the rails, sending him falling over the edge. The next day, the newspaper club puts out flyers revealing Jin's reality, and Tsukun tries to talk to Mocha only to get kicked in the face when he almost looks up at her underworld. The group then decides to celebrate, however they suddenly notice a strange girl. She asks for a newspaper and Tsukun hands her one. Later on, she shows up in class and Ms. Nekonom introduces her as Ms. Shirayuki. After class, however, Tsukun is hanging out with Kirimu and Mocha, but once they leave he notices that Shirayuki is watching him. Turns out she's a fan of his work for the Yokai Gazette. Tsukun feels flattered but gets batshit scared when he sees the comments in Shirayuki's book are totally obsessive about him. Meanwhile, Ms. Nekonom is asked by the PE teacher, Mr. Katsubo, and the maths teacher, Ms. Ruriko, to keep a close eye on Shirayuki. At the pond, Tsukun tries to run away from the creepy lady, but Shirayuki grabs him. She starts scarily telling Tsukun that all he has to do is be hers alone. Meanwhile, a puppet of Shirayuki shows up at the newspaper club and tries choking Mocha out of jealousy. Poor Mocha screams for Tsukun, but the useless dude is frozen under the pond. It is revealed that Shirayuki is a snow fairy who is desperately lonely. The real Shirayuki then tries to hog the whole man for herself when suddenly Mocha arrives, carried by Kirimu. The two had managed to defeat Shirayuki's puppet and come crashing right into Tsukun. Luckily, the impact frees him, making Shirayuki go totally crazy. Later on, Mr. Katsubo finds Shirayuki crying while back in the newspaper club room. Mocha, Tsukun, and Kirimu warm up. Suddenly, they find Ms. Nekonom in a panic, saying that Shirayuki has gotten into big trouble. Turns out poor Mr. Katsubo has been hospitalized because of Shirayuki, and Ms. Ruriko tells them that she'll be expelled once found. Tsukun feels responsible, and so the group heads out to find her. On their way, they pass by Jinne, and strangely he tells them he has photos of an awesome new scoop. Meanwhile, Shirayuki is looking out to the ocean just as Tsukun arrives. He says that if she comes with him and apologizes right away, she won't get expelled. Shirayuki becomes hysterical, telling Tsukun that she thought he would be the one who understood her, but she now thinks no one will ever understand her. Just then, Mocha, Kirimu, and Yukari arrive, showing Tsukun Jinne's photos. Turns out it was Mr. Katsubo who attacked Shirayuki. Tsukun now feels terrible as Shirayuki slowly gets worse, laughing maniacally and crying as ice puppets come out. Suddenly, Shirayuki almost falls off the cliff, but Tsukun grabs her, saying he wants to be her friend. However, the stupid guy accidentally pulls off Mocha's Rosario, and with Inner Mocha free, she clears up the rest of the ice puppet. Inner Mocha then pulls Tsukun and Shirayuki up and tells Shirayuki to try living just as she passes out. Later on, Shirayuki shows up to the club with a new haircut as a sign of rebirth, and Tsukun then thanks Jinne for taking the picture. However, stupid Jinne ends up exposing his work once again, and the girls totally pounce on him just as Mocha goes for a quick bite. Later on, one day Ms. Ruriko's walking around flashing the boys her killer underworld. In maths class, she scolds Tsukun and reminds that the final exams are coming up, and so he asks Mocha to tutor him. She asks Tsukun to come to her dorm room, but the guy low-key freaks out knowing his mind won't let him focus with Mocha alone. Just then Kirimu barges in offering her help as well, followed by Yukari. Even Shirayuki appears asking for some study help, and so Mocha announces a group study. They gather in the club, but all of them are just busy doing their thing while Yukari lectures. Mocha offers her notes to Tsukun, making Kirimu interrupt and ask Tsukun to tutor her instead. That day, Mocha and Tsukun run into Ms. Ruriko and tell her they have been studying. Strangely, she sort of encourages them to not study, explaining that only teachers are capable of teaching a subject, not students. She then tells Tsukun to meet her for a tutoring lesson. The following day, Sukyun tells everyone about it and starts fantasizing about the girls in swimsuits. He tells Mocha that he'll pass so they can do some fun stuff during summer break. Sukyun then goes to the tutoring room, only to find Ms. Ririko in a rizzing outfit. He is totally freaked out by the teacher making advances at him. She even insists that her private sessions are more intense, making the poor guy scream as she transforms. The next day, the girls bump into Sukyun weirdly mumbling maths formulas. He then runs into Mocha and she immediately realizes something is wrong. However, Ms. Ririko shows up accusing Mocha of being the reason Sukyun can't focus and takes away the idiot to continue her classes. However, while in class, Sukyun mumbles "Where's Mocha?" making the teacher knock him down. She tells him that he should try harder to study because his human scent gets her worked up to teach. However, Mocha hears the poor dude screams and runs over to find that Ms. Ririko is a lamia, who is using her tail to keep Sukyun fixated on studies. Ms. Ririko angrily calls Mocha a pest and knocks her outside, but Shirayuki pops in from the ceiling and blasts her with cold air. However, Ms. Ririko knocks down candles and blocks her from helping. She then pins poor Mocha, making her notes fall. However, the sight of them pulls Sukyun out of his trance and he pulls off Mocha's rosario, releasing inner Mocha. Ms. Ririko tells Mocha that she's a bad student, but inner Mocha casually says that she'll be teaching Ms. Ririko her place. With that, Shirayuki freezes the teacher solid. Soon, the finals are here and Sukyun is stressing out. However, he thanks Mocha for tutoring him and she bites him happily. Later, one day Sukyun is waiting at the bus stop for their club trip to the human world. When Mocha arrives looking totally cute, Mocha reminds Sukyun that she used to live in the human world, making him a bit worried, but she's more excited than scared. The two almost kiss, but thanks to Kirimu the duo ends up missing the smooch and soon, Ms. Nekonom arrives with the bus. Sukyun finally feels back home and almost makes everyone suspicious of him. However, Mocha covers for him saying that Sukyun used to live in the human world before going to Yakai Academy. However, Yukari seems rather suspicious. They soon reach the beach and everyone plays ball. Yukari grabs the opportunity and asks Sukyun if he's really not afraid of the human world. The idiot says he finds Yakai Academy way scarier. Just then Mocha dives, getting sand in her swimsuit, and the creep dude literally drools with thoughts when a shot from Shirayuki wakes him up. Kirimu then comments that she thought Sukyun was a human, making Mocha and Sukyun a bit alarmed. But luckily Mocha changes the subject as Kirimu and Yukari get in a fight over the ball. Later, Sukyun and Mocha once again miss the kiss when Kirimu calls them into the water. Sukyun tries to get Mocha to come along, but remembers vampires can't go in water and decides to stay with her. The two try their kiss attempt number 3 only for Kirimu to yell at Mocha to stop sucking Sukyun's blood. Cherry on top Kirimu, Yukari and Shirayuki get in an argument over who would care if Sukyun collapses from blood loss. Sukyun happily laughs at their childishness when suddenly he notices a field of sunflowers. Nearby, a couple has arrived on the same hill and Yukari notices them talking about people going missing there. Kirimu thinks the couple was accusing witches of kidnapping people, making Yukari snap back and say she dislikes succubus whose only feature is being a stupid rizzler. Kirimu is embarrassed and Yukari drops a tub on her. The rest of the club finds the two mid-arguments, but ultimately the group heads back to the beach. However, once they leave, a strange girl appears out of the flower field. Meanwhile, Ms. Nekonom heads out to catch some fish. Kirimu helps Sukyun move the cooler while Mocha cuts vegetable. Poor Yukari keeps offering help but is turned down by everyone. She ends up outside and notices a presence back on the hill. She goes to investigate and meets the same strange girl named Ruby. Ruby's a witch and asks Yukari if they can be friends before strangely hugging her. Back on the beach, Sukyun notices that Yukari has disappeared, while Ruby tells Yukari about how witches have lived on the hill for generations and that her ladyship will soon pass a plan to wipe out humans to protect it. Just then, Sukyun shows up and Ruby assumes he'll spoil the witch hill. She immediately summons monster plants to kill him. However, Yukari slays them, telling Ruby that she won't let her kill one of her friends. Ruby snaps, tying up Yukari and having more plant monsters try eating Sukyun. Luckily, the rest of the group arrives and slashes them down. Yukari then apologizes to Ruby, saying they can't be friends. That's when Mocha realizes it's her sweet chance to hog the kiss when suddenly Ruby seriously slashes Sukyun in jealousy. The dude literally passes out, panicking Mocha to burst and unseal the inner Mocha. Yukari is horrified, asking Ruby what she's done and turns to find Shirayuki freezing everything around her as Kirimu transforms and flies at Ruby. Soon, Ruby wakes up in the group's tent. She tries to attack but stops when Sukyun holds out a can of tea for her. Sukyun explains that they only want to hear her story and learn the past of Witch Hill. Turns out Ruby and her ladyship have only been attacking humans to protect their home, and so Mocha suggests that Ruby should come to Yakai Academy. They low-key touch Ruby with their kindness and she begins easing up. Once all of them are asleep, Ruby sneaks out thinking about the news club. However, she feels that it's too late to change and flies back to Witch Hill. There, she tries to talk to her ladyship about what she just experienced, but the ladyship punishes her instead. Soon the group notices that Ruby has gone missing and races back to Witch Hill only to get caught in vines controlled by Ruby. She has turned into a maniac and tells them to leave Witch Hill. Sukyun desperately tries reasoning, but Ruby just orders the plants to eat the group. Luckily, Kirimu and Yukari manage to free themselves and fight off the killer plants. Shirayuki breaks free too and saves Sukyun by freezing the monster plant solid. That's when he realizes that Mocha has been unable to free herself from the vines and runs after her. Unfortunately, Ruby buries him and Mocha in a sea of plant monsters, but Sukyun manages to snatch the Rosario off, and the energy from Mocha's transformation turns the plants into trash. Inner Mocha thanks Sukyun for saving her and pounces at Ruby, who brings the monster plants back to life and merges them into bigger ones. Suddenly, Sukyun realizes that her ladyship must be in the house on the other side of the hill. Luckily, Mocha manages to free him. Kirimu, Yukari, and Shirayuki team up to clear a path for him, and he finally manages to get to the house. There, he tracks the roots to the room of her ladyship. However, the old witch remains silent. Sensing something is wrong, Sukyun slowly creeps forward and sees something terrifying in the mirror. Outside, Yukari notices Ruby has Mocha tied upside down. Suddenly, Sukyun arrives, revealing that her ladyship is long dead. Turns out Ruby has been in denial and is grieving her mentor's corpse. In a flashback, Ruby sees her ladyship passing right after deciding not to go through with her plans. Ruby goes to another level of crazy and merges with the plant monsters. Now the only way to correct her is to defeat her. However, poor Mocha becomes trapped in vines and is fused with Ruby, becoming her slave. Yukari tells Shirayuki and Kirimu that they have to destroy Ruby's wand to defeat her and manages to blind Ruby. This allows Mocha to regain control. Poor Yukari begs her to try and not kill Ruby, and Mocha agrees to do what she can. Finally, she dive kicks Ruby's wand, shattering it and causing an explosion, which totally consumes Ruby as she recalls her happy childhood. The next day, the whole group is devastated, but then Jinne shows up with Ruby sleeping like a baby in his arms. He found her floating in the ocean, and thankfully, Ruby looks all well. Soon, the news club prints out their new editions, including their adventure at Witch Hill and Kirimu's jokes. She seems really passionate about the paper, and the group then handouts the newspapers, only to find 3 girls handing out their own called the Yakai Square. Kirimu is totally pissed and yells at them. However, a student named Kato walks up and introduces herself as the Super Newspaper Club president. Her paper is way more popular, and the students ignore all other papers, saying that they have no spicy swimsuit photos like Super Newspaper Club. The group even learns that the school is planning to scrap clubs with the least popularity. Hearing this, Kirimu gets dead serious about getting as many readers as possible. Meanwhile, Jinne is out peeking at women when he sees the Super Newspaper Club walking into the security committee office. The next day, Kirimu dresses up Yukari in a maid outfit to sell their paper. She even hands out cookies to those who sign up for the Yakai Gazette, only to end up losing when the Super Newspaper Club shamelessly rizzes readers with spicy pictures. Later on, Sukyun and Mocha arrive with Jinne. He tells them not to mess with the Super Newspaper Club, revealing that they have the security committee's support, and the committee's super violent. Jinne is so scared that he orders everyone to burn the papers. They have no choice but to obey. But Kirimu is in no mood to give up. Just then, the Super Newspaper Club trio shows up, threatening them. Sukyun and Kirimu are shocked to see Kato behind the whole ordeal. She literally tosses their papers into the incinerator, and when Sukyun desperately tries helping Kirimu, Kato hangs him up with her silk. She rips off her uniform, revealing to be one of the security committee, and transforms into a spider woman. Poor Kirimu is trapped in Kato's web and is about to get injected with venom when Shirayuki shows up and attacks Kato. She misses Kato's counterattack just as Mocha and Yukari run in as well. Mocha immediately jumps up to reach Sukyun, and he swiftly removes Rosario. With that, inner Mocha is released and she frees Sukyun but leaves Kirimu be. Poor girl annoyingly frees herself, making Kato totally lose it and grab Mocha's arm. However, the crazy woman is far weaker than inner Mocha and literally gets kicked. Kirimu then blesses her with another kick and knocks her into her own web. In the end, Sukyun decides to expose the committee for being corrupt jerks, and thankfully everyone agrees with him. However, Kuyo, the committee's head, learns of Kato's defeat and realizes that everyone's monster identity is listed except for Sukyun. He then burns the files with an evil smirk. Meanwhile, Sukyun's group begins taking photographic evidence of the committee's corrupt ways, but they also need eyewitnesses. Thanks to Shirayuki, she has managed to stalk the fan club. However, when they go to question them, they find that the committee literally took them away. The next day, Mocha finds Sukyun is tired. Sukyun notices that Mocha is intoxicated by his scent and even leans in for her to get a bite. But Kirimu shows up, kicking the vampy lady down, saying he needs to retain his strength. Later on, Jinne notices the security committee walking towards Ms. Nekonome's classroom where Kuyo literally blurts out that Sukyun is suspected to be a human. Everyone is totally shocked, and once the committee tries taking them away, Yukari desperately tries to free them. However, Jinne stops her, saying that she cannot do anything on her own. At the committee's headquarters, Sukyun is shown recordings of Seizo, Mr. Katsubo, Ms. Ririko, and several other students giving confirmation of him being human. Turns out even Kirimu and Shirayuki were questioned, but they strongly defended Sukyun. The committee also points out that vampires love human blood, and Mocha seems to be chugging it. Mocha desperately tries to defend Sukyun, but the interrogator is fed up and threatens her with pure water. This makes Sukyun get seriously angry, and he demands Kuyo to let Mocha go. However, Kuyo casually threatens to throw Mocha into the pond and reveals that the fan club is there as well. He explains that they told him that Sukyun's a weak, worthless idiot. Kuyo then pins Sukyun and tells him to change into a monster and free himself. With Mocha's screams of pain ringing his ears, Sukyun decides to tell the truth and finally admits to being human. Kuyo laughs and snaps his fingers to reveal Mocha, Kirimu, and Shirayuki. Kirimu and Shirayuki are shocked while Mocha cries that Sukyun shouldn't have told them the truth. Realizing that Mocha knew the truth, Kirimu slaps the heck out of her, giving Kuyo a fun show. Kuyo then tells his men to lock Mocha up and then turns to Sukyun, saying that he'll be put to death. Meanwhile, Kirimu and Shirayuki return to the news club, informing Jinne and Yukari that Sukyun is a human. Shirayuki leaves without a word. Kirimu wonders what Yukari thinks of humans, but before Yukari could answer, Kuyo's voice comes over the speaker. He announces that Sukyun is a human and that he will be put to death. A large crowd forms and yells excitedly. However, two students agree that the committee is taking things way too far, only to get knocked by the committee member. Poor Ms. Nekonome is horrified, but Mr. Katsubo is actually having fun. Back in the club, Yukari is horrified by the news. She desperately tells Kirimu that they have to do something, but Kirimu only cries, yelling insults about Sukyun and Mocha. Outside, Sukyun is finally displayed and Mocha can hear everything in her cell below. Poor Sukyun makes his last wish and asks Kuyo to spare the rest of the newspaper club. However, while the worthless human is getting ice-skate, Shirayuki recalls Sukyun saving her when suddenly a strange bird tells her that it's her turn to do the saving. Meanwhile, Yukari is trying to convince Kirimu, but she yells saying Sukyun and Mocha should have trusted them to tell the secret. Suddenly, the same bird appears asking them to say that to Mocha and Sukyun's face. Back in the cell, poor Mocha helplessly cries and inner Mocha tells her that she is not alone in wanting to save Sukyun. Just then the bird arrives there as well and bends the bars of the cell. Mocha steps out and is shocked to see the bird turn into Ruby. She's brought the whole gang with her and Kirimu slaps Mocha, saying they have to hurry and save the useless human. Outside, Kuyo is literally about to BBQ'd Sukyun, but luckily Shirayuki puts the flames out just as Ruby and Kirimu fly down to free Sukyun and run away. Shirayuki, Mocha, and Yukari stay back to handle the fight. Kuyo asks if the girls know that they've committed a crime against the academy. Shirayuki, Mocha, and Yukari tell him that it doesn't matter as long as they saved Sukyun. Kuyo then reveals that Jinne said something similar last year, and so he literally killed the whole club except Jinne. Kuyo then orders his top 3 minions to kill them as punishment. With that, Yukari and Shirayuki engage in an amazing battle, giving the crowd a killer show. However, Kuyo looks up and leaves to chase after Sukyun. Yukari yells for Shirayuki and Mocha to help Sukyun, but Shirayuki yells for Mocha to go alone. By now, Sukyun is on the rooftop and thanks Kirimu and Ruby for saving him just as Mocha runs up to him. Sukyun is happy to be reunited, but his joy is spoiled when Kuyo shows up saying that Sukyun is going to die. Suddenly, an arrow of fire pierces Sukyun's heart, and to everyone's horror, he burns badly. Poor Sukyun weakly tells Mocha he has no regrets about coming to Yakai Academy and asks her to protect their friends from Kuyo before pulling off the Rosario. Thinking that Sukyun is dead, Mocha screams like a maniac and inner Mocha takes over. Kuyo is impressed just as Shirayuki and Yukari arrive and become horrified seeing Sukyun dead. But Sukyun is still clinging to life, and so Mocha decides to give Sukyun some of her vampire blood. Ruby agrees, saying that vampires have incredible healing powers. However, they must be quick because Kuyo has transformed into a 4-tailed fox. He fires a blast at them when suddenly Jinne shows up, taking the hit and calling them idiots for just standing there. With that, Shirayuki fires icicles at Kuyo, but he easily melts them before sending her flying with a fire blast. To buy time for Ruby and Yukari, Kirimu flies around dogging Kuyo's fire. Ruby and Yukari release a blast of tarot cards at Kuyo, but he easily destroys the familiars as well. But Ruby is not done yet, and the remains of the familiars join together into a big crow that pecks Kuyo's right eye. Kuyo then transforms into his ultimate battle form and beats everyone down except Mocha. Sadly, Mocha's attacks aren't affecting Kuyo, and she realizes that giving up so much of her blood has affected her superhuman strength. Kuyo then blasts at Mocha, killing her. However, Kirimu points to the top of the roof. There, Tsukyun is holding Mocha. He had subconsciously sensed danger and saved the vampire. Kuyo tries attacking, but a transformed Jinne grabs him, and with a jump kick, Mocha hammers Kuyo into the room below. Just then the whole school pours in to find Mocha in her human form and Tsukyun all tattered. They end up believing that the stupid human defeated Kuyo and that he's not really a human. Ms. Nekonom agrees, and some students apologize for their cruel behavior to Tsukyun while others are happy at Kuyo's defeat. Soon the group is treated and Mocha and Shirayuki are hospitalized. Kirimu also tells Tsukyun everything, and he's extremely grateful to Mocha. Once she wakes up, Tsukyun thanks her with a bouquet. That's when Tsukyun feels his heart beating fast and realizes that he's falling for both Mochas. Mocha blushes and Tsukyun leans in for a kiss, but Kirimu barges in with the girls and the whole bunch of them demands to be smooched. One morning, Tsukyun is riding his bike to school when he meets up with Mocha. The two fall over and almost kiss when suddenly inner Mocha kicks his weak balls and Tsukyun wakes up realizing it was just a stupid dream. With that, Tsukyun starts another year in Yakai and runs off to school, ignoring his cousin Kyoko on the way. While walking through the forest, Tsukyun finds the spot where he met Mocha, but this time another woman rams into him. The worthless trash literally runs into her. However, unlike Mocha, this lady isn't sweet and whacks the dude off. Tsukyun then arrives at school to find his group of girlfriends being worshipped by the freshmen. Just then Yukari jumps at him, only for Kirimu to knock her down. Luckily, Shirayuki stops Kirimu before getting in a quarrel with her. Just then Mocha shows up, and of course she and Tsukyun start cringe staring at each other again until she bites him. Soon the school begins, and while checking their shoe lockers, Mocha gets buried under a bunch of love letters. However, one of them tells Mocha that she'll be killed tomorrow, making her freak out. Everyone uncomfortably chalks the letter to be a prank, and Kirimu and Yukari go to recruit new members to the club. Meanwhile, their creep club president Jinne is busy peeking freshman girls. Suddenly he notices a mysterious girl, but she ends up kicking and breaking his lens. In school, Tsukyun and Mocha run into Ruby, who's working for the school director. That's when they find another threatening letter. At the recruitment area, even the girls notice a strange lady lurking around, and later when Tsukyun and Mocha walk back to the dorms, they notice another letter attached to Tsukyun back. Once he reads it, Mocha freaks out so much that she runs away. That night, Shirayuki notices the same strange girl looking around for someone's room. She immediately questions her. However, the girl tries being smart and escapes Shirayuki's attacks. The next morning, Tsukyun greets a sleepless Mocha. Turns out, countless letters kept coming the entire night, making her seriously scared for her life. The group gathers to protect Mocha, and Shirayuki tells them about last night as well. Just then a commotion breaks out. The mysterious girl has attacked two boys who were staring at her, and so they start chasing her around in their true forms. Tsukyun's group realizes that they've all seen this strange woman, and Mocha becomes totally paralyzed with fear. However, the commotion worsens and Tsukyun knocks into Mocha, accidentally pulling Rosario off. Inner Mocha is then released and kicks the two idiots, causing a blast of air to showcase the girl's secret underworld. Once everything settles, the strange girl shows up saying she's Mocha's worst nightmare. And to everyone's shock, she declares that the time has finally come to wipe her sister off the face of the earth. Mocha's sister Kokoa goes crazy and dive kicks at Mocha, only to go smashing through several trees when Tsukyun saves Mocha. She's totally crazy and asks why Mocha isn't fighting back. Picking up a spare desk, Kokoa swings it wildly but accidentally hits the worthless idiot to sleep. Just then Mr. Kitsubo shows up asking why Kokoa is not in class. Ruby says that Kokoa's last name is Shuzan, which confuses everyone. Anyways, the group takes the knocked out trash to the infirmary. There, Mocha finally explains that she and Kokoa have different mothers, hence different last names. She remembers they fought every single day and Kokoa never beat her once. One day, Mocha told Kokoa about leaving to live with her mother in the human world, and so Kokoa vowed to hunt her down. Suddenly, Kokoa crashes through the window armed with a hammer and everyone flees into the hall. Kirimu asks Mocha to do something, but she's so scared and runs away with Tsukyun, making Kokoa follow them. Meanwhile, Mr. Kitsubo and Ms. Kagome ask Ms. Nekonom to help them with stopping Kokoa when suddenly they hear her run past. Outside, the maniac sister finally catches up to Mocha. Luckily, Yukari and Kirimu arrive, dressed up as superheroes, only to get knocked off. Shirayuki, who's been hiding this whole time, gets super irritated and prepares to freeze Kokoa. However, Mocha begs them not to attack her sister. Just then Jinne and Ruby enter the party, and Tsukyun is sure that Kokoa can't face them. Jinne then distracts Kokoa with a click, and everyone ends up hiding inside an equipment storage unit. Just then Mocha decides to face her sister and orders them not to follow her. Mocha then faces off the redhead outside the school grounds. However, seeing that Mocha isn't using her full strength, Kokoa gets super angry and pins her. She breaks down asking Mocha why she won't fight like in the old days. Just then Tsukyun and others show up, realizing that Kokoa was simply missing Mocha, and so she apologizes to Kokoa. However, that isn't why Kokoa is going Chuck Norris at her. She almost kills Tsukyun and Mocha, but luckily Mocha shows up and tells Kokoa that she'll knock out anyone who flashes their fangs at her. She then kicks Kokoa away, but Kokoa picks herself up and begins growling. But then suddenly she rushes over to hug Mocha, confusing everyone. Kokoa then explains she wanted to get rid of the fake sister and see the one who left her. Mocha just seals herself, saying she isn't the same person anymore. Tsukyun then carries Mocha to the nurse's office and wonders where the sweet Mocha came from, only to get classically bit. Soon it's Parents' Day, and Tsukyun tells two fellow students that his parents wouldn't attend. Later, in class, Mocha and Tsukyun find Seizo all grumpy. However, the dude turns into a total wimp once his parents show up. Anyways, Mocha says that neither of her parents came all the previous years, so it's unlikely they will. She just plans to spend the day with Kokoa, but changes her mind when Kokoa bursts in and attacks Tsukyun. Later, while Mocha tends to Tsukyun's injury, Shirayuki introduces Tsukyun to her mother, Sarara Shirayuki. They are not much different, and Shirayuki even told her that Tsukyun is her boyfriend. She even asks the dude to play along, but the situation gets complicated when Kirimu arrives with her mother, Ajaha Kirono, and reveals that she's introduced Tsukyun as her fiancé. Her mother totally smothers the poor guy with her talents. Soon, Yukari walks in with her parents as well, and Ruby is so excited to see adult witches. Anyways, the class begins, and for some reason, Ajaha and Sarara seem to have some beef between them. The two purposely bump and trip each other. Turns out both of them want their girls to settle down their love lives, and even Shirayuki and Kirimu get into a fight. Later on, the two are taken out of class by their mothers. Ajaha aggressively asks Kirimu how far she had gone with Tsukyun and tells her to save the relationship by literally making love to him. Meanwhile, Sarara goes a step ahead and tells Shirayuki to freeze him, and so Shirayuki lures Tsukyun into the woods and freezes him, but he is rescued thanks to Yukari. However, it doesn't stop the chaos, and Kirimu starts grinding against Tsukyun, trying to get laid. As expected, the mother wars continue through the classes, and even in music class both Kirimu and Shirayuki sing songs to Tsukyun professing their love. Then at lunch, both mothers end up arguing over Tsukyun's future wedding so much that they literally destroy the cafeteria. However, Tsukyun realizes that Sarara and Ajaha are fighting over him because he resembles a boy, Gonzo, that they had fought over during their youth in Yakai Academy. Sadly, Sarara and Ajaha attacks make Tsukyun accidentally remove Mocha's Rosario, releasing inner Mocha. She then tells the two mothers to drop it, making them attack her. Poor Tsukyun ends up wedged in Sarara and Ajaha's talents. Both disgusting women are so creeped that they yell in unison and tell Tsukyun he can date them instead. Thankfully, Yukari's parents fix the cafeteria, and soon the Parents' Day comes to an end. The two mothers then apologize just as Seizo shows up with his parents. Hearing Seizo's last name, the two women realize that Gonzo is actually Seizo's dad. Now the dude looks like a dumpling. The two of them collapse and ask their daughters to not give up on Tsukyun. One day, Yukari is walking to school and says hello to Tsukyun. However, he just ignores her and greets Mocha instead. Poor girl gets all sad and decides to win Tsukyun's heart. Later on, while peeping at the couple, she gets jealous of Kirimu's talents. She sadly checks out her height in the nurse's office when suddenly the nurse, Mako Yakimaru, claims she can grant Yukari's wish to age. Yukari wakes up later feeling odd and walks back to her dorm, overhearing boys praise her. In class, no one recognizes her until she intervenes in a fight. That's when she looks at her reflection and is shocked to see a teenage girl's body. In the nurse's room, Mako asks how Yukari likes being older, and she happily thanks her. The girl even teases Mocha. However, after getting a new uniform, Yukari leaves her jacket and opts for a yellow ribbon, ditching her hat and cape to appear more appealing. The tiny witch has turned into a Rizzler. Later, she bumps into Tsukyun and apologizes with a cute pose, mimicking Kirimu. Yukari tries to rizz the useless dude, but he just runs away embarrassed. Anyways, the next day, Ms. Nekonom announces a body measuring session. The following day, Yukari goes to the gym for measurements, while boys watch from the school roof, admiring Yukari and Mocha's beauty, which makes Kirimu jealous. Ruby, also in the gym, is surprised by Yukari's change. She measures Mocha and realizes that her talents are far bigger than she thought. But once it's Yukari's turn, she is massively shocked at her size. However, during height measurement, Yukari feels jealous of Kirimu and follows Mako to the bathroom, pretending she needs to go. Arriving at the nurse's office, Yukari asks Mako for help once more. But Mako admits she's been making Yukari feel bad on purpose to get energy from her negative feelings. Feeling upset and ready to argue, Yukari gets surprised when Mako tells her that if she beats her, Yukari will become young again. Mako then takes away Yukari's wand and puts her to sleep to use her bad feelings. While sleeping, Yukari realizes she's not as mature inside as she looks outside. When she wakes up, her friends are there and Mako is gone. They go back to get measured, but Yukari turns back into a kid like Mako said she would. Everyone is surprised, but Yukari is okay with it because she's grown a little physically. With the measures done, everyone leaves. Hirumu thinks Yukari did some kind of magic, but Yukari says she's fine the way she is and knows she still has a lot to grow emotionally. She then sees Tsukyun and steals a kiss. Then, one day, in her dorm room, Shirayuki struggles to cook curry, finding it difficult. When the curry overflows and burns her hand, she screams, waking up other students. Shirayuki's hair turns to ice, and she collapses. However, she looks at a picture of Tsukyun on her calendar and finds the courage to continue trying. The next day, Tsukyun works in shop class while the girls cook. He daydreams about Mocha offering him food from her love menu only to wake up and realize that Seizo the idiot destroyed the whole table. Anyways, in cooking class, Ms. Apsara announces they'll make curry. Hirumu adds love potions to hers for Tsukyun, while Yukari's makes a healthy version of curry. However, Ms. Apsara is a spice enthusiast and adds a bit too much of it into Yukari's curry, making the poor witch cry. Outside, Kokoa is angry seeing Mocha cook. She thinks it's against the vampire pride when suddenly Shirayuki catches her. However, she rejoins the cooking class and afterwards the girls give their curry to boys. Poor Shirayuki's curry is frozen solid and she even freezes other people when they mock her. Meanwhile, Ms. Apsara thaws Kokoa out only for her to insult curry, and that seriously ticks her off. Elsewhere, Shirayuki is feeling hopeless but remembers Mocha's advice to keep trying. She tries cooking again, following Ruby's advice, and after some mishaps, she finally makes good curry. The next day, Tsukyun, Mocha, Hirumu, and Yukari wonder where Shirayuki is. They decide to visit her at the dorms after class when suddenly Kokoa calls for Mocha. They see her at the classroom entrance, holding curry plates with her skin totally yellow. Kokoa has turned into a curry zombie. In the school, the boys discuss getting frozen by Shirayuki the other day when strangely they find curry coming out of shit. The whole school then throws a curry fair, not knowing that Ms. Apsara is behind the spicy mess. Meanwhile, Shirayuki walks to school with her curry and finds students with yellow skin in the courtyard. One of them tries attacking her, but she freezes the idiot and finds her friends eating the curry as well. Hearing laughter, Shirayuki sees Ms. Apsara, who spreads a yellow cloud and reveals her true form. Ms. Apsara explains her plan to make everyone taste real curry. Tsukyun, who's now an idiot curry zombie, asks for Shirayuki's ice curry, breaking Ms. Apsara's spell. Shirayuki's shaved ice curry brings his taste buds back to life. Poor Ms. Apsara tries to force Tsukyun to eat her curry, but Shirayuki's shaved ice curry wins him over. Ms. Apsara angrily attacks with curry plates, but Shirayuki freezes them as well. She then sends a giant plate at her, which Shirayuki can't fully freeze. However, just then Mocha saves Tsukyun and whacks down Ms. Apsara's curry plate before sending her flying. Finally, Tsukyun shares Shirayuki's curry and frees everyone from the spell. Once the chaos ends, Hirumu suspects that Shirayuki used her magic, but she denies it, saying she cooked her curry for Tsukyun with love. One day, members of a street gang known as Monsters Industries gather at the docks, led by Goblin of Tosa. They express gratitude for each other's assistance and plot to conquer another gang's territory to expand their dominance. Meanwhile, Tsukyun's group is on a field trip to the human world. Ruby unexpectedly becomes their tour guide, with poor Kokoa desperately cycling behind. The group stops at various places and soon ends up at a shrine. Poor Mocha desperately tries to get some time with Tsukyun, but the popular creep is busy with women. However, they strangely spot Sea Monk eating fish from a pond, which is totally weird. Outside, Kokoa finally manages to arrive on her bike only to get ice-skated by a bus. Meanwhile, the group shops for souvenirs and Mocha considers a charm for love and marriage. Poor girl gets insulted and runs into some aggressive guys, but her charm disarms them. However, their bosses from Monsters Industries notice Mocha's Yakai Academy uniform. Anyways, once evening falls, the class reaches their hotel. Hirumu and Shirayuki attempt to spend alone time with Tsukyun, but Yukari intervenes. Poor Mocha continues to feel bad. Later on, Ms. Nekonom spots Kokoa creeping around, and the two ends up chasing through the hotel, giving poor guys nosebleed. The girl later bicker on their night suits, but once everyone falls asleep, Mocha sneaks out, followed by Hirumu, Shirayuki, and Yukari, all secretly trailing behind. Outside, Mocha expresses her desire to spend time with Tsukyun throughout the trip, feeling uncertain if it's selfish. Tsukyun reassures her, confessing he also wants to be with her. But before they can share a lovey-dovey moment, the Sea Monk interrupts them out of nowhere. The dude even abducts Tsukyun, and despite Mocha's attempt to rescue him, the Zashiki Warashi intervenes. Luckily, Hirumu and the others arrive just in time. The Wraith warns them to find Tsukyun if they want him back, launching a fire attack that Shirayuki blocks. As dawn breaks, Tsukyun worries about catching a cold, when suddenly the girls arrive to save the useless dude in some crappy hero outfit. They realize that Monster Industries kidnapped Tsukyun to eliminate Yakai and seize power, and so the girls prepare to face off the bosses. Hirumu faces the Sea Monk while Yukari handles the ghost brat and gets buried under pillows but manages to retaliate with a wash tub. On the other hand, Shirayuki confronts the wraith, matching his fire with ice and freezing him solid. However, Mocha struggles against the goblin until she uses a hidden weapon to defeat him. Defeated, the bosses summon their heavy hitter, and to everyone's surprise it's none other than Kokoa, the annoying sister. She enters with her own drama but everyone just ignores her. Poor Kokoa angrily attempts to attack, but Inner Mocha easily flicks her off and scares off Monster Industries before sealing herself again. Back on the tour, Kirimu, Yukari, and Shirayuki realize that Tsukune and Mocha are missing. Meanwhile, Tsukune and Mocha find themselves confronted by Monster Industries once more. But this time they are in no mood to fight, instead they declare Mocha their new leader. Poor Mocha clings to Tsukune nervously. One day Tsukune surprisingly shows up at his home. Kasumi, Tsukune's mom, notices that her little brat seems grown up. Suddenly, another doorbell ring startles her, and Tsukune asks what's happening. She explains that a beautiful girl is looking for him. To Tsukune's surprise, it's Mocha, who apologizes for arriving unexpectedly. As Kasumi tries to calm down thinking Mocha is Tsukune's girlfriend, Tsukune gives Mocha a tour of the house. He feels embarrassed as Mocha explores his room. Mocha then explains that she thought if Tsukune went home, he might decide to stay, that's why she showed up. Weirdly, they both fall onto Tsukune's bed and almost smooch when Tsukune finds Kirimu. The creepy lady had been hiding under the sheets. Not realizing Mocha is there, Kirimu smothers Tsukune trying to get the cherry boy laid but realizes that Mocha and Shirayuki are also present. Just then Yukari ends up joining them and a fight breaks out over Tsukune just as his mother arrives and faints from shock. When Kasumi wakes up, she asks Tsukune if he's sleeping with the girls. Tsukune desperately clarifies they're just friends, surprising the girls, each of whom considers herself his girlfriend. Mocha realizes Tsukune hasn't even told his parents about them or Yakai Academy and feels sorry for putting Tsukune in an awkward situation. The girls then apologize for showing up suddenly. Meanwhile, Kokoa races on her bicycle towards Tsukune's home. Later, Tsukune tries to take a shower but is interrupted by Kirimu. However, Shirayuki interrupts, freezing Kirimu's feet, only for Yukari's to pull on Kirimu's towel, giving poor Tsukune a massive nosebleed. Poor Tsukune and Yukari rush to stop Kirimu and Shirayuki from fighting, only for Kasumi to find her son and faint again. Later on, Tsukune's cousin, Kyoko, visits and sees a chaotic scene at his home. She scolds Tsukune and his friends for upsetting his mother, leading to an argument about who is Tsukune's real girlfriend. Kyoko proposes a competition to determine who loves Tsukune the most. Each girl tries to prove her love for Tsukune but fails. Kirimu defends, saying she can satisfy Tsukune with her talents, but Yukari interrupts, saying she is willing to have a relationship with Tsukune and Mocha. Shirayuki wants babies, and Mocha accidentally implies gets, when all she did was just blood-sucking. Poor Kasumi faints once again. Anyways, the girls decide to fight and head outside. Back at home, Mocha attends to Kasumi. Once she wakes up, Kasumi tells her that Tsukune always talks to her about Mocha over calls. This makes Mocha happy and she heads out to handle the crazy women. Outside, she smothers Tsukune's face in her talents before summoning Inner Mocha and swiping her crazy friends to sense. Inner Mocha then tells Tsukune that one day he'll have to make a decision and take a partner from them. The next day, Ruby cancels their school trip passes and the girls argue over who is to blame. Meanwhile, back at home, Kasumi dismisses Kyoko, seeing the girl's power as a dream, and poor Kokoa arrives to find Tsukune and company gone. One day, Ruby is seen introducing herself to the audience. She is then greeted by Tsukune and wonders if they would ever become more than friends. Just then, Mocha arrives, greeting Tsukune. This annoys Ruby a bit. However, Kirimu arrives as well. Next comes Yukari and then Shirayuki. Poor Ruby finally snaps, making the girls greet her. She then calls the girls total creeps for wearing small skirts, making Mocha and Yukari protest. Until the idiotic duo, Kirimu and Shirayuki, prove Ruby right by flashing themselves and asking for Tsukune's opinion. However, the girls then call Ruby's long skirt lame, making her snap even more and revealing herself to be the dress code monitor. She then announces a new skirt rule. Soon Ms. Nekonome overhears Kato's former minions talk about Ruby's new rule and goes shopping. However, she tries on outfits that annoy Ruby, who's working as the cashier. Ms. Ririko catches her and yanks on Nekonome's ears, making her rip the swimsuit. However, once Ms. Nekonome is gone, Ms. Ririko finds a school uniform and decides to try it on. Later, the girls notice that Jinei's missing. The creep says he once lost his pride because of the security committee and accidentally drops photos he took of Kato and Desiko in their spicy outfits. Jinei then thanks Tsukune and others for defeating the committee but wonders why Tsukune gets all the girls. Later on, Ms. Ririko catches sight of Mocha and remembers her defeat, so she takes Mocha hostage, only to be stopped by a feline superhero. She angrily slashes a hole in the hero's suit, revealing the flashy undies and realizing that it's Ms. Nekonome. The lady then runs off embarrassed, telling Ruriko to not pick on her students. Later on, it's revealed Kokoa screwed up by going to different locations for famous foods. Once she returns, Kokoa gets knocked over by the karate team. The redhead is totally embarrassed, realizing that she squished Ku. Meanwhile, Mocha tells Tsukune that he tastes fruity. Turns out the dude was drinking milk to try and stop her. However, she likes the taste. The poor guy then tries drinking a lot of vinegar, followed by several bottles of hot sauce and flavored water. In the end, he chugs down a ton of garlic and energy drinks. The next morning, Mocha greets him while he's working out, but the smell of his disgusting odor makes her run away. Later, Yukari finds a lost puppy out in the rain on her way to school. The little guy ends up tearing the news club room, and Yukari then takes the puppy to Jinne, but he angrily turns her away. However, Ruby soon returns as the dress monitor. She warns Kato's ex-minions about their short skirts, but when they insult her, Ruby threatens them with her ruler and shocks them. Jinne, who watches the whole thing, doesn't like Ruby's rule because it affects his news gathering. He asks Ruby to stop it, offering a private photo session, and Ruby agrees. The next day, Ruby sees Tsukune and the girls again. They argue like always and really dislike the long skirts. Ruby thinks she did a good job when suddenly the wind blows and lifts everyone's skirts. Ruby gets mad at how they are still flashing around and totally loses it and trips. The girls and Tsukune are surprised, and Ruby feels embarrassed and quickly hides herself. Poor girl starts crying, but Tsukune calms her down. However, they are missing one very important thing, and out jumps Jinne, snapping away. He bumps Tsukune into Mocha, removing the Rosario and releasing inner Mocha. The lady then knocks the creep out. However, just then Kokoa shows up and chases her beloved Mocha down. Soon, Ruby walks with Yukari by the river and joins the news club, chatting happily. Later, she checks the barrier's rosary and meets with the director, discussing peace between monsters and humans. One day, Kokoa watches videos of her sister's fights, hoping to help her come back home. She notices that Tsukune always takes off a special necklace and decides to get it herself, but finds Mocha's class empty. The group has actually gone on a skiing trip and is greeted by snow fairies at the resort. However, this is Shirayuki's home, and she and her mother have a sneaky plan to make Tsukune give them a few babies. Ruby turns out to be their ski instructor, while Mocha and Tsukune lovingly scream each other's name. Soon the girls argue over who's going to ski with Tsukune when suddenly Shirayuki kidnaps Tsukune, knocking poor Kokoa down the hill. Shirayuki returns to her home only to find the worthless brat missing. The dude ends up shivering, but luckily Mocha finds him. This time Kokoa emerges from the snow, planning on taking the rosary. However, she gets super mad over being unable to take it off. Thanks to her crazy screeching, an avalanche starts, which takes her and Tsukune into a ravine. Back at the resort, Kirimu, Yukari, Ruby, and Ms. Nekonom are enjoying the hot springs, only for Tsurara to freeze the warm waters. Just then, Shirayuki rushes in with Mocha, telling everyone that Tsukune and Kokoa fell into a ravine. A flashback then shows Mocha and Kokoa fighting as usual, and Kokoa wakes up in a cave with Tsukune. However, Kokoa decides to leave. Tsukune runs after and manages to make her stay when suddenly a roar startles them. Meanwhile, Mocha, Ruby, Kirimu, and Yukari head out to find Tsukune. However, Mocha better find Tsukune before the icy mother-daughter duo gets to him. She heads out with Ruby instead. Back in the cave, Tsukune asks Kokoa why she hates him so much. Kokoa says it's because Mocha gives him everything. She goes mad before blacking out, and so Tsukune decides to lie next to her to keep her warm. However, he wakes up to find the roaring has gotten close, and then suddenly a literal yeti enters the cave. But luckily Shirayuki comes to rescue. Tsukune then runs off with Kokoa to get her medical attention, but the yeti follows. Just then Mocha shows up, and Tsukune immediately pulls her Rosario off. With inner Mocha out, she kicks the yeti away. However, Kokoa sees her chance and tries to take the Rosario, but inner Mocha says she will not let herself remain unsealed. With that, she seals away herself. Just then Shirayuki realizes that the yeti is actually her father. Turns out the guy was looking for lost skiers. Soon everyone leaves, with Shirayuki promising to marry Tsukune next time. On the bus, Kokoa seems to have returned to her normal bratty self, making Tsukune wonder if they can ever become friends, and the girls start demanding to marry him. One day, Deseko Desi walks to school, feeling down about things since Kuyo's defeat last year. Suddenly, she hears a beautiful voice and sees a new boy asking for directions to the faculty lounge. He says "I love you" in French, and Deseko instantly falls in love with him, swearing to be his servant forever. In class, Ms. Nekonom introduces him as Katero Ijuin, a new student. Shirayuki, Yukari, Mocha, and Kirimu murmur that they prefer the idiot Tsukune over Katero. After class, Kato's ex-friends invite Katero to music class, where he charms them with his riz, making them fall for him. Later at lunch, the news club debates article ideas when suddenly Katero shows up and impresses Yukari by catching her when she trips. He weirdly calls her his little bunny and throws in an "I love you" as well. Yukari immediately falls for him, wondering why she's acting this way. Then during PE, Kotaro goes for Shirayuki. As she watches Tsukyun fail a jump, Kotaro appears, praising her smile and saying I love you to her as well. The girl who doesn't even smile on a good day starts grinning under his love spell. After PE, Mocha and Kirimu struggle to carry volleyballs. Kotaro ends up helping Kirimu, saying I love you, and the lady literally starts giving the dude a show. Mocha then questions Kotaro's intentions, but he puts her under his spell too. Soon, with all the girls drooling at him, Kotaro turns them all into his personal bodyguards, including Mocha, Yukari, and Shirayuki. Once Tsukyun realizes this, he desperately tries reaching them, but it's of no use. At the club, the useless human asks Jinne for help and he agrees to investigate. However, Kotaro ends up hypnotizing Jinne as well and plans to take over the school. Kotaro's power grows so much that he even ends up controlling Ms. Nekonom and the dude start a massive concert. Poor Tsukyun tries his best to stop him but gets beaten up until Kokoa shows up. She confronts Kotaro, but when he tries to enslave her as well, Mocha runs up to her. However, under Kotaro's spell, she is unable to do anything. Just then, Tsukyun decides to be of some use and jumps onto the two ladies and manages to pull Rosario off. With inner Mocha out, Kotaro attempts to hypnotize her and Kokoa again. However, Kokoa reacts quickly, shoving his microphone into his mouth. Inner Mocha then swiftly kicks him, sending Kotaro bouncing around like a pinball. The two then deliver a double kick to the creep face, knocking him out and breaking the spell. Kokoa happily starts celebrating Mocha's freedom, but Inner Mocha says it was Outer Mocha who fought to save her sister. Later on, Kokoa reflects on Outer Mocha's sacrifice, while Mocha as usual drinks Tsukyun's blood, angering the newspaper club. One day, Kyoko arrives in the monster world, carrying rice balls for Tsukyun that Kasumi has sent for him. She encounters Kokoa on her way and they collide, switching their packages. Kokoa, with the rice balls now, rushes off with a plan to get her sister back. Meanwhile, Kyoko arrives at the Yakai Academy and observes Tsukyun and Mocha. However, her attention is diverted when Kirimu, Yukari, and others join in. Kyoko misunderstands the situation, believing the school might be training girls for the trade. That's when she opens the package to find a mirror instead of rice balls. Poor Kokoa discovers the mix-up. However, Kyoko investigates the mirror. A pixie named Lilith emerges from it, but Kyoko flees into the forest, feeling like she's on a prank show. Lilith then demonstrates the mirror's ability to reveal true monster forms, proving that Kyoko didn't just dream of the girls with powers. The little pixie then flies over to Kirimu and Yukari and exposes their true selves. Later, at the news club, Tsukyun and Mocha run into Ruby, who asks them to help her find a stolen artifact. However, before they can assist, Jinne transforms into a werewolf and disrupts the room. Mocha manages to stop him, and Ruby asks if he looked into the mirror, and the idiot says he'll answer if she lets him take pictures of her. Mocha just slams the dude and Ruby explains Lilith's mirror and the chaos it's causing. Tsukyun decides to locate the others and Ruby receives news of a human girl with the mirror and gets worried for her safety. At the pool, poor Kyoko trembles in fear as she witnesses people transforming into monsters and begs Lilith to stop, but Lilith insists on fulfilling her wish to explore Yakai Academy. Just then Kyoko runs into Ms. Ririko in her monstrous form. Tsukyun then spots Lilith flying around and is relieved to find Kirimu still in her human form. However, Kirimu's behavior becomes crazy as she expresses her feelings for Tsukyun. Yukari and Shirayuki join the chaos, and Tsukyun realizes the mirror has unleashed their true selves and he better save himself. Meanwhile, Ms. Ririko prepares to attack Kyoko when suddenly Mocha shows up. Kyoko, initially frightened by Mocha, eventually accepts her. Kyoko then helps her in recovering the mirror and shows it to her, releasing Inner Mocha and defeating Ms. Ririko and her allies. With the situation under control, Inner Mocha and Outer Mocha confront Lilith, who reveals her true identity and even splits the two Mocha. However, because of it, their powers split as well. Just then, Tsukyun shows up with the girls free of Lilith's spell. The group then blindfolds themselves and defeats Lilith for good, where Kokoa's involvement in the chaos is exposed, and Ruby takes her away for punishment. However, thanks to Lilith's chaos, the school's barrier is breaking apart. At the time, Kasumi watches a TV show about severe weather when her house suddenly shakes. She rushes outside and is supersized to see Yakai Academy mirrored upside down in the sky. Back in the monster world, students gaze up in horror as the sky fractures. Ruby explains that the Great Barrier is collapsing due to Lilith's mirror. This revelation terrifies everyone, especially Kyoko, who fears being eaten by monsters. Mocha rushes to fix the barrier with the help of her friends and Kyoko. The poor vampire sacrifices her identity as Outer Mocha to repair the barrier, leaving her permanently in her Inner Mocha form. Despite this change, Mocha promises to reunite with Tsukyun. A month later, Kyoko returns safely to the human world, but some things at school remain different. In class, Inner Mocha shows little interest and is always immersed in a magazine about combat. Tsukyun feels uneasy with the new Mocha as well. After all, he can no longer fulfill his fantasies. However, during gym class, Kirumu and Shurayuki flirt with Tsukyun when suddenly Inner Mocha joins in, which is very unusual. The lady literally starts rubbing her talents, making the dude totally confused. Later on, Inner Mocha finds Tsukyun on the rooftop, where they share a moment similar to how Tsukyun and Old Mocha used to. However, Tsukyun feels like cheating and stops. Inner Mocha then reveals to Tsukyun that Old Mocha was an illusion created by the rosary. Despite this, Inner Mocha offers to feed on Tsukyun's blood, but her friends end up interrupting them. Kirumu, Yukari, and Shurayuki realize that they must cheer Tsukyun up, unaware that Kokoa is observing from afar and decides to keep an eye on Tsukyun. That evening, Ruby checks the Great Barrier and finds the replacement rosary intact. She informs the director, who appreciates Mocha's sacrifice. The director then tells her a secret and Ruby discovers that both rosaries are identical. The next day at school, Ms. Nekonome tells the class about a future path session. Tsukyun calls home and learns about the storm caused by the barrier. Kasumi reassures him, but says that Kyoko is really sad over hurting Mocha. Later, Ruby is sweeping by the gate when she sees Tsukyun leaving and decides to follow him. He revisits the spot where he first met Mocha. Ruby overhears his grief and ends up sharing what she learned from the director. That night, Tsukyun remains gloomy, staring at Mocha's dark window from his dorm, when suddenly Ruby throws a pebble at his window, revealing a way to bring back outer Mocha. The following day, parents gather for the future path session, with Tsurara and Ajaha resuming their stupid quarrel. Yukari's mother intervenes, but chaos ensues as each mother asserts her daughter's claim to Tsukyun. Yukari pleads for them to consider Tsukyun's feelings, initiating a ceasefire. But Ajaha and Tsurara refuse to give up and declare themselves his future in-laws. Meanwhile, Tsukyun heads to the Northern Barrier, where the Dark Lord resides. A flashback shows that the director is also one of the 3 Dark Lords who founded Yakai Academy, and the person who made the rosary for the Great Barrier made Mocha's as well. As Tsukyun enters the tunnel, he promises to obtain a new rosary for Mocha. However, Kokoa watches him from above and swears to never let this happen. Soon, Tsukyun reaches the Northern Barrier, seeking the castle of the Dark Lord who made Mocha's rosary. When suddenly, Ku and a group of bats attack him. Tsukyun scares off the bats and confronts Ku, determined to rescue outer Mocha. Kokoa then decides to take matters into her own hands and steps forward only to get interrupted by Tsurara and her army of snow women. However, Tsukyun presses on but Tsurara stops him with her snow women. As usual, Tsurara is hell-bent on getting the guy married to her daughter, but Tsukyun objects. Shurayuki then supports him and wants to help Tsukyun bring back outer Mocha. Seeing this, Tsurara angrily summons a snowstorm, but Yukari and her parents drop into lend a hand. Yukari's mother unleashes a powerful spell, allowing Tsukyun to escape while Shurayuki confronts her mother. The love-struck idiot then manages to reach a bridge controlled from the other side, and here he runs into the other crazy mother, Miss Kurono. She attempts to marry him off to Kirumu, but thanks to Kirumu he manages to escape once again and Kirumu guides him to the bridge. Inside the castle, Kokoa warns Tsukyun about their father, Issa Shuzan, the Dark Lord. Despite that, Tsukyun proceeds, determined to retrieve the rosary. Soon he meets the man and requests the rosary, but Issa gives him the classic cold shoulder and attacks. Tsukyun stands firm, questioning Issa's hate towards humans. In response, Issa insults humans for their fear and hatred of monsters. Despite Tsukyun's declaration of love for Mocha, Issa strikes him down and calls his love an illusion. Hearing that Tsukyun's eyes glow red with some strange power, Issa realizes that Mocha gave some of her blood to him. Tsukyun then tells Issa that he cares for both Mochas and doesn't want to be without either one. He charges at Issa and manages to land a punch to his face. However, Issa knocks Tsukyun away, only for Mocha to grab him. Mocha tells Issa to stop his show and reveals that Tsukyun won. That's when Issa sees Tsukyun with the rosary. He asks Mocha if she's okay with being locked up again, and Mocha says it's not her choice. Issa then agrees to let Tsukyun keep the rosary. Then he disappears. With that, Tsukyun tries to give Mocha the rosary, but Kokoa takes it and the two start fighting just as the castle collapses. Soon, Kirumu, Yukari, and Shurayuki find Tsukyun and Mocha. Mocha asks if Tsukyun prefers outer Mocha, but the girls interrupt and want Tsukyun to pick one. Tsukyun explains he wants to bring outer Mocha back before choosing. However, inner Mocha then accuses him of leading them on and seals herself after biting Tsukyun. With that, outer Mocha returns and hugs Tsukyun, making others totally jealous. However, before they can fight over the useless man, the Yakai Academy bus shows up with Ms. Nekonome, Ruby, and the tied-up crazy mothers. Ms. Nekonome then thanks Tsukyun for bringing back Mocha and they head back to the academy. However, Kokoa is still planning to bring back inner Mocha, but Issa finds her and punishes her. Meanwhile, the bus driver hopes for a peaceful future with monsters and humans at Yakai Academy as Tsukyun and girls dance the evening away. Comment Riz if you want to be as lucky as Tsukune and get monster girls. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon for latest updates.